Well, we've just had an extremely good and useful discussion. It's ranged from the very local community perspective right the way through to European Union activity and how that impacts on it, and of course the role of the Environment Agency in trying to cope with this very extreme weather that we're facing at the moment. I think out of this will come some very positive thinking about how we can go forward, how we prepare for the increasing impacts that climate change will have, how we cope with more extreme weather, which we are undoubtedly likely to have over the years ahead, and how we can work with communities, not telling people what to do, but working with communities in getting the best solutions.
The conference is a real eye-opener for me in terms of seeing lots of different projects happening across the UK and across Northern Europe, and it's great to see tangible discussions going on with real people talking about the big issues, but also bringing that together with people like Lord Smith, who's in the middle of the storm around the floodings, talking at the very high level, and it's really important, and it's been amplified here, how bringing the two sides, so the people's reactions and the hard job of holding back the waters or keeping the floods out is brought together in a conference like this. So it's really encouraging and really engaging. This really encourages me to see that there's others out there who believe that community engagement and working with people on the ground is crucial to the success of bigger projects and dealing with the bigger issue of climate change. But we can do it in a positive and upbeat and fun, engaging way with real people dealing with real situations and real lives.
I think the initiative is really important as one of the key Interreg projects, showing that the topic of coastal management and coastal protection is really relevant across Europe. And it's an example of transnational collaboration, which is really interesting, I think. Actually, the timing of the conference is also really interesting. I mean, we heard many of the current events and recent past events in the UK, so people are really enthusiastic to talk about it and find solutions at the local level, and that's very, very good to see. There is really a need to learn from each other across countries at the European level, and also to make sure that what's happening from, let's say, legislation and further directions at the EU level are also connected to what people really need on the ground. So in that sense, there will be more need further of these projects, but also to make sure that it connects to the EU policy agenda. For example, as was mentioned this morning, on integrated coastal zone management and marine spatial planning.
Yeah, I really like the conference. I think it gives a good overview of the project that we've been doing here. You see the whole different range of types of case studies that we've been working on. It's going to go from very local actions to a little bit more higher planning initiatives. So it's really a good conference.
For me, that's been the interesting bit, is everybody's thinking not about this as the end of the project. They're all thinking about how they're going to take it forward and what are the next steps. And I think that's something that we need to think about now, because there's been some great ideas. What are we going to do next? Where are we going to go? How are we going to keep this going? And that's the really important bit for me.
I think it's great so far, and of course I've been part with my colleagues from Altera of CC2150 over the last couple of years, so we've met a lot of people that are here already before. But what I really, one of the most striking things for me is actually the examples that are presented here of local initiatives. For example, Andy's experience in the Southampton area, which is very different from the Netherlands. People having to take responsibility for their own piece of seawall, and how do you deal with that, with all the problems, like if your wall is high enough but your neighbor's isn't. This is the kind of thing that is very different from the situation with us, and what I think is very good that we have examples of bottom-up grassroots working. We also hear about national or even international studies, but I think that the real challenge is to get that over to people in the street and get them engaged, and we've seen some very good examples of that, and that's really, yeah, it makes me optimistic also for the future.
And well, as a Dutch partner, I think we can learn a lot from the UK, because I'm really struck with the examples of starting the dialogue with the local communities. and really go out and talk. And that's something we don't do in the Netherlands. So I think I have a few good examples to take home and try to encourage to start a dialogue and really talking about difficult issues like sea level rise, climate change, etc.
Yeah, well, there were very interesting keynote speakers this morning, and they pointed out the importance of integrated coastal zone management, and I think it's a very important message to the national government and also the European government that there's really a need for a framework directive, like there's now a suggestion, framework directive to support the ICM work, because stakeholder participation, community involvement proves to be very, very important, and for the moment it's really difficult to make that click in the minds of the national and European government.
Yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. The actual response from people, great attendance, really good debate. We're extremely pleased to see there's been some real impassioned arguments and questions, etc., all about climate change, which is so current and topical at the moment.
I've been with the project virtually since the beginning. What I've found is that the community members are quite keen to get their ideas across, and it is true that if you listen to them, take on board what they're saying, you do get their support, and they're keen to carry on and build up a vision and action plan for their community. What you have to do is empower people, let them think that what they're doing will count and that their thoughts have been taken on board, and I think you need to get some sort of legacy set up whereby people can carry forward what's been decided, what's been planned, and that they're part of it. What we found is that each partner country does things in a different way, and it's learning how other people do things that enables you to look at what you do, how that varies, and what changes you can make, what improvements you can make.
Well, the extraordinary weather events of the last couple of months, which are still going on as the conference takes place, make it particularly relevant and topical, of course. And suddenly this debate has risen to the top of the political agenda. What should we do to make our coastlines more resilient as well as inland flooding? So the idea of cooperating with countries that have got really good experience of this, like the Netherlands, the idea of engaging the whole community in a long-term plan seems to me to be a very interesting conference.
The visualizations that we've got are basically fly-throughs that have been computer generated. One through the Ouse Valley, which shows the impact of different rises in sea level from 0.5 metre up to 3 metres. And the other is a visualization of a sort of fictitious part of the coast with the various sort of elements of the coast, a port, river, dunes, and that then is utilised to show different adaptations, and when you're defending the line or whether you're allowing some egress in a computer sort of way, but very, very effective. It is really like you're taking the helicopter view along the Ouse Valley, and the adaptations one with the different sort of scenarios is very effective, because you can really see how different adaptations affect the coastline and the environment in different ways. It's mind-blowing is how I describe it.